This is the start of the nunchuck intro series. I want to go over safety and considerations first. So the first thing to pay attention to when you're using nunchucks is the kind of nunchucks you're using. These are metal, they're a little bit heavier, and you should probably not be using metal or oak nunchucks if you're just starting out. Instead, you should probably be using something that has padding on it, foam nunchucks or hard nunchucks that are padded on the outside with something. Sometimes if you use those enough, the padding can come flying off, but that probably won't happen as you're just getting started. And by the time it does, you can just rip it off completely because it's really hard to get it back on, rip it off on the other one, and then you have a pair of hard nunchucks, which can be helpful in some ways. Some people like trial by fire, right? You won't hurt yourself as much if you train with something that will hurt you because you learn to not use it stupidly eventually, right? So first thing is the kind of nunchucks that you're using, right? Try to use foam if you can. Second thing about the nunchucks is the chain and how the chain is connected to each individual chuck. You can see that these have round bearings, right? Round studs. That is probably better than something with, like I used to have a pair that broke because I used it too much, but they were kind of this cylindrical prism sticking out of the nunchuck that was chopped off, right? And then chain link directly connecting into that. And that was maybe a little bit more painful because it can pinch your skin, right? It has a more angular zone. Even with these round bearing ones, they can as well. I'm not going to show you my armpit hair, but you can see like these dark dots. Those are from pinching my skin, even with completely rounded nunchucks. So it will happen. Which brings me to the second point of safety, I guess, your sleeves. Especially if you have like armpit hair or something, you don't want that catching like in the bearings of the nunchucks and getting pulled, or your skin catching and tearing open and bleeding. If you do it enough, it will. So try to wear sleeves if you can. That being said, if you wear something like a jacket, right, we can kind of get flying squirreled is what I like to call it, right? If you like raise up an arm and you're doing some trick, right, this slack, my body ends like back here, but there's all this extra draping space that can mess up some of your tricks. But it won't necessarily injure you. Anyway, just wear sleeves, try to wear something tight clinging to your arms. Most important thing about your personal, I guess, hygiene and safety is your fingernails. Try to trim your fingernails as short as possible before doing nunchucks, because sometimes you'll be passing from one hand to another, maybe behind the back pass, and oops, other side maybe. And you can see there, this chuck swung in towards this hand while my fingers were extended. If I weren't very practiced, I could have nailed myself in the end of the fingertips and cracked the fingernails open, and it could have been pretty yucky. So try to trim those short. Third thing, your feet, right? Try to wear shoes so that and when you drop the nunchucks on your feet, it doesn't hurt as much. Try to maybe be on carpet or outside in the grass where you won't be damaging the floor either. Try not to wear shoes on carpet though, I guess, if you're in your own house. Your hair, not your like body hair, but your head hair. You'll find different things work for different tricks. Like there are some behind the neck passes, ponytails, or like really bushy hair can interfere with those sometimes, but it can also protect you if you accidentally like are passing under your armpit and you hit yourself in the back of the head. Having hair back there can sometimes be helpful. It really depends. I'd recommend having it as high as possible on your head because I don't like do a bonnet pass or something where we pass from one side of the head to another. That would be weird. Lastly, for safety is, well, besides your surroundings, right? Just don't be stupid. Your wrists, try to warm them up before you start violently swinging heavy torquing objects with your wrists. Stretch them out, right? First dynamic, then static. A lot of people start like martial art practice with static stretches. That's a terrible idea. You're gonna pull things. Move around first as you're doing it, right? So warm up like this, just link your fingers together, roll out your wrists. Chop towards your nose, pull down. Chop away from your nose, right? Thumb towards your nose and pull down like you're praying or something. Don't be stupid and use this stretch too much because that can screw up your shoulders if you come too far up your back, like with the hands folded prayer thing. Okay, but that's safety, right? So kinds of nunchucks that you're using, use padding, pay attention to the chain. Last thing I forgot about the nunchucks. The longer a moment arm is, right, the farther the length of your nunchuck is from the pivot point, the more damage it's going to do if you hit yourself out here. If I accidentally whack myself here, right, with the nunchucks, that still kind of hurt, but not as badly as it would have here, right? I'm not even gonna try. So try to choke up on the nunchucks for a lot of your tricks and hold it as close to the chain as you possibly can to still do that trick, right? Some people who teach like practical nunchucks, I guess, for like fighting are gonna say hold it farther down so that you can get this reach and long moment arm. For performance purposes, don't. Okay, that's all for safety. Next, I want to talk about the terms that I use to refer to certain sides of your body or certain dimensions, right? So in three-dimensional space, transverse plane is the floor plane, right? So if I'm doing horizontal tricks, right, this is along the transverse plane, or this one here, right, that first pass that I showed you, that's all along transverse plane, which is the floor plane. Sagittal plane is kind of this up and down, front and back plane, right? So sagittal would be stuff like this, right? First basic shoulder pass, or maybe figure 8 wrist rolls, right? These are up and down and front to back, instead of up and down side to side, which is the last plane of our three-dimensional space. That's frontal plane, right? Kind of the window plane is the frontal plane. The banister or handrail plane is the sagittal plane. And then transverse plane is the floor or ceiling plane, right? So those are the 3 planes that I use, and I'll refer to those sometimes when we're doing certain tricks, etc. Okay. Lastly, I use the terms same and opposite to refer to sides of your body, right? So same side would be something like this here. I am holding the nunchucks in this hand. I do some sort of trick on this side of my body, right? So this is a same side trick. This is a same side trick. Opposite side trick would be from one side of my body to another, right? So maybe something like this. I cross to the opposite side, now it's in the other hand. It doesn't necessarily have to change hands. It can be just something that crosses to the opposite side of your body, okay? So same side and opposite. Other anatomy terms I try not to use too much to not sound like too pretentious or fancy, but those are the major ones that I use. Same and opposite I don't think are even anatomy terms. But anyway, to recap, safety of your nunchucks, don't be an idiot. Basically, try to use padded nunchucks, hold them close to the chain, are the ones that most people don't realize. You can also use nunchucks with cord, which will avoid some of those problems. It's just really a matter of personal preference. 2, your surroundings, right? 3, your hair, what you're wearing, your nail hygiene, your feet, wearing shoes, etc. Having padded surfaces, trying not to break anything around you. Watch yourself in a mirror if you can, and don't stand too close to it so you don't break the mirror if you mess up. But so that you can pay attention to what you're doing on your dominant versus non-dominant side, so that you don't accidentally like get too rigid or stiff on your bad side and mess something up and hurt yourself. And then, right, just transverse, sagittal, frontal, same side, opposite side. And that's really all the considerations that I have for you, I think, with regard to nunchucks. And I guess your head hair too.